more people you lose here. And you can imagine the only people you get to know that are dead are
I was diagnosed with breast cancer 6 years ago in September 2005. And since then, I've had chemotherapy, radiotherapy, surgery, and then I founded a trust, Twakutukuza Trust, to support patients who are going through cancer, support them financially, emotionally, in whatever way they need support. After I'd gone through my treatment, I realized the cost of medication for people who are going through cancer. And then also just understanding what it's like being there and needing support, preferably from somebody who's gone through it. And so I decided to start the trust, one, to be able to raise funds and be able to help the people that we can. And then just to have a platform from which I can speak or do things that would be recognized, rather than doing it from a personal position. It came through now my having first discovered a lump in my breast and then doing a mammogram, being told it doesn't look like anything, but being directed to see a doctor who sent me to do an FNA, which is a biopsy. Once the biopsy came out, I went back and saw the doctor, and he's the one who told me that it showed that I have breast cancer. So after that, I was supposed to be traveling out of the country for 2 weeks, and he told me I can go and come back like 4 weeks later, which is when I was due back in 2 weeks, but he said I can come back anytime between then and then 4 weeks. But when I came back, when I was away, I started doing research on internet, and I realized that with cancer, you really need to begin doing something about it immediately. And so immediately I finished my meetings, I came back and started off by seeing the pathologist who had done the test. And she gave me names of other doctors I could check because I wanted to have like a second, third, fourth opinion. And eventually I ended up with a doctor who now, took my case and first sent me off to do tests. And I started with a bone scan, blood test, CT scan, abdomen scan, and all of that cost me maybe about 20,000. And then he sent me to see a surgeon so that now he can map out the treatment. And they agreed to begin by giving me chemo to shrink the lump. Each chemo cost between 70 to 100,000. 3 weeks after that, I had to go out of the country to do radiotherapy, because they said the machines here were not, my doctor didn't trust them. And so I went to South Africa, and I spent, I don't know how much I spent, but by the time I'd finished all my treatment, it had easily come to about 3 million. For me, I had help from my family and from my friends. Some people even got together and did a concert, and guys gave whatever they were able to give, and that's how I managed to get my treatment. And then also the employer I was working for at the time paid part of my bills. But for other people who don't have the resources that I had, you're faced with a ridiculous amount, and there's really no way to get this money. So I just thought, there are people out there who have the resources, and then there are people with need. So Twakutukuza tries to bring the two together. So people can come and say, I want to support a patient, or they say, we're giving you money, and then you choose which patient, and then we update them as the patient progresses with their treatment. I look at what happened with HIV and AIDS, and how at some point it was expensive for people to look for treatment, and maybe many of them didn't know what sort of treatment to look for. But at this point, there's so much awareness going on, and almost everywhere you go, it's almost like mandatory that you must do an HIV test. It would be wonderful if cancer tests were as readily available, as easily available. And also, I see the way treatment for HIV has come down. I mean, all you need to go is just go to a hospital, give in your report, and get your medication. It would be wonderful if that could happen. True, there are people who are able to afford their treatment, but there are others who are not. So even if it means subsidizing for those who cannot, at least it's a beginning. Men also get breast cancer. In fact, one of the first patients, I think he was the second cancer patient that I met, was a man, and he had breast cancer. And in fact, it wasn't his first bout with it. And you know, when you tell men that men also get breast cancer, they look at you funnily, and they think maybe it's men who, you know, sometimes they don't have a completely flat chest, and they think maybe it's guys like that, but it's not, you know, because they say anybody who has breast tissue, which we all have apparently, you're liable to get breast cancer. And it's just that for women, it develops more because of our hormones, but for men, it doesn't develop. And they find it hard to believe, but it is true. And then the thing is, with men, breast cancer is actually worse. When it hits you, it's worse. So even for them, it's good for them to be checking. Because again, as with women, the earlier it's detected, the better. Being positive. I believe that is a very key thing in treatment of cancer. Because if you're already feeling negative and you feel like you're going to die and all those things, one of my doctors had told me, you know, you really need to be positive and you need to cooperate. And we need to work on this as a team. It can't be just the doctors doing their thing. You also have a role to play. Because then it's as if the medicine won't be as effective as it could be if you're already feeling, you have already negative feelings about it. I got healed. I did the full treatment. I did, altogether I did 9 rounds of chemo. And then I did radiotherapy, which was a daily thing for 7 weeks. And then I did surgery. I did a lumpectomy. So the first time I didn't get clean margins, and so I had to go back again. And then after that, I had to take tamoxifen, which is a daily pill. And I took that for 5 years. So I did the whole thing. And on top of that, I did a lot of praying. I believe possibly if I'd been checking, I'd have seen it earlier. And the treatment then would not have been as traumatic as it was. But yeah, it is important to be checking regularly. In fact, like for women, we're advised to pick one day in the month. And you know, you change according to as the month goes because of your hormonal cycle. But pick one day in a month, like if you say every first day of the month, and then always check on that day. Because then if you keep doing this regularly, if something changes, you will notice. But if you never do it, even if you feel something like I did, I feel this huge lump, I'm not sure, has it been there before? When did it start growing? So I just decided, let me wait and see if it will go. And it didn't. That's when I started like checking. So I realized, no, it was still there and it wasn't changing. It wasn't hurting. But I just thought, let me go and see what this thing is. But if I had been doing regular examinations, then I'd have noticed it growing. First of all, I'd have noticed that it was there. Then I'd have noticed it growing, and maybe I'd have had it looked at earlier.